Let's talk a little bit about the process overview. Okay, these are the elements that we're going to be really referring to throughout this course. We're going to be talking about rhythm, and rhythm is really what helps us keep pace, keep time. We're going to be using that to great effect throughout this course. Of course, there's melody and harmony. These are kind of related. So harmony tends to be chords, and melody tends to be sort of linear, horizontal lines of music over time, whereas chords tend to set a context. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're also going to talk about cadences. Now, in cadences, you are talking about how phrases of music conclude and how it sort of sets somebody up for either some tension or some resolution. Obviously, that's going to be important in our calm cue. Now, the one other thing we're going to talk about quite a lot in this course we're going to use to great effect is color and timbre. Okay, now color is sort of a general term. It's a little bit more intuitive. It's a little bit ephemeral. It's difficult to nail down exactly what color means, but color has to do with sort of a quality. It's sort of a flavor, a texture, a human experience, an interpretation, if you will. And you'll see how that takes place through the use of timbre. Now, timbre is, there's sort of a mathematical explanation for timbre, which is literally which harmonics are at which amplitudes. That probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you, but essentially you can think about timbre as the difference between a violin and a flute and a human voice, right? So if a flute plays a perfect G and then a human voice sings that exact same pitch, and you hear a piano play that exact same pitch, right? You can tell the difference, that one was a voice and one was a piano. You could tell if it was a flute, that sort of thing. That's timbre. It really is a concrete fingerprint, a signature in the sound that tells our ears and tells our brains what instrument we're listening to. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of brief examples of how timbre is so useful. You often hear an oboe in an orchestral arrangement to kind of convey loneliness, right? And oboe's timbre conveys that, partly because it's very different from other instruments, whereas brass, for example, a big tuba or horns, trombones and trumpets convey sort of victoriousness, right? A sense of victory and strength. And these sorts of things get conveyed because the timbre is exactly like that as well. A piano could sound very powerful, but it can also sound lonely. It can sound very emotive. So we're going to be using color and timbre as well throughout this course. Now, the process is really to look at each of these different elements and identify how we can use them creatively in our music. And each example that I go through where we're talking about how to create our urgent and our calm and our creepy cues, you're going to see how I'm using each of these elements. I'm going to break it down so that you know exactly how rhythm's being used or exactly how harmony's being used, etc. Now let's continue on with the course.